The echoes of absence, awakening to grief's first waves. Imagine, if you will, a solitary lighthouse standing sentinel on a jagged cliffside. Its beam cuts through the fog of night, piercing the darkness with rhythmic pulses of light. But one fateful evening, the light flickers, dims, and extinguishes forever. The keeper who once tended it with unwavering devotion is gone. Now the structure remains sturdy, weathered, but hollow, its purpose adrift in the void. This is the essence of losing a spouse, a beacon snuffed out, leaving you to navigate the treacherous waters alone. Yet in that very emptiness lies an invitation, not to despair, but to rediscover the stars hidden behind the clouds. The empty chair at the dinner table, once filled with laughter and shared secrets, becomes a silent reminder of what was, and a quiet call to rebuild what can be. Welcome to 6 missteps that hinder healing after a spouse's passing. This is not merely a recounting of sorrow, but a cinematic journey through the labyrinth of loss. We will traverse the shadowed valleys of grief, confront the pitfalls that ensnare the unwary, and emerge into the dawn of renewal. Grief is not an enemy to be vanquished. It is a profound teacher, a catalyst for transformation. It strips away the superficial, forcing us to confront our deepest selves. But beware the missteps, those subtle errors born of pain that can prolong the agony, turning a natural process into a perpetual storm. In this first part, we delve into the initial awakening, the raw reality of absence, the first 3 missteps that often derail the grieving process, and the foundational steps toward understanding grief as a path to empowerment. Let us begin with the striking image of that empty chair, a metaphor for the void that engulfs us. Picture it, the wood polished from years of use, the cushion indented with the imprint of a life shared. Meals become solitary rituals, echoes of conversations lingering like ghosts in the air. Pass the salt, you might whisper instinctively, only to be met with silence. This is where grief begins, not in the grand theatrics of funerals or eulogies, but in the mundane, the everyday absences that accumulate like unspoken regrets. Grief, in its truest form, is a metamorphosis. It is the caterpillar dissolving in its chrysalis, a painful dissolution before the emergence of wings. Society often portrays it as a linear path: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, as if one could check off stages like items on a grocery list. But reality is messier, more cyclical. Waves crash unpredictably. One day you stand firm, the next you're swept under. And in this turbulence, the first misstep emerges, isolating oneself in the name of strength. Misstep 1, the fortress of solitude, withdrawing from the world. Oh, how tempting it is to build walls. In the aftermath of loss, the world feels intrusive, its well-meaning condolences like salt in an open wound. They're in a better place, friends say, or time heals all. But time doesn't heal, it merely acclimates, and so you retreat. The phone rings unanswered, invitations declined with polite excuses. I need space, you tell yourself, curling into the cocoon of solitude. But isolation is a double-edged sword. It promises protection but delivers imprisonment. Consider Sarah, a woman in her mid-50s whose husband Tom succumbed to a sudden heart attack after 30 years of marriage. They had built a life together, weekend hikes, shared playlists of old jazz records, dreams of retiring to a cabin by the lake. When Tom passed, Sarah felt as if half her soul had been ripped away. She locked the doors, drew the curtains, and immersed herself in memories. Photos scattered across the floor, his favorite sweater clutched like a talisman. Days blurred into weeks. She avoided the grocery store where they'd shopped together, the park bench where they'd watched sunsets. I can handle this alone, she thought, echoing the stoic independence she'd always prided herself on. But solitude festered into loneliness, a subtle shift from chosen quiet to enforced isolation. Modern life exacerbates this. Remote work, social media's superficial connections, the pandemic's legacy of distancing. Sarah's story is all too common. Research from bereavement studies shows that prolonged isolation increases the risk of depression by up to 50%, turning grief into a chronic condition. The brain, starved of human interaction, amplifies negative thoughts, regrets over unspoken words, anxieties about the future. What if I never feel joy again? Becomes a looping refrain. Yet there's a hidden lesson here. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's the bridge to connection. Grief teaches us that we are not islands, but part of a vast archipelago. By reaching out, even tentatively, we honor the love we lost. Tom wouldn't have wanted Sarah alone. Their bond was about shared strength. So practical tool number one, the connection compass. Start small. A text to a friend. Thinking of you today. Join a support group, virtual or in person, where stories like yours are shared without judgment. Apps like Grief Share or online forums on Reddit's R. Widowers offer anonymous entry points. Remember, healing isn't solitary, it's communal. As we navigate deeper, the psychological impact of this misstep unfolds. Loneliness isn't just emotional, it's physiological. Cortisol levels spike, sleep disrupts, immunity wanes. Sarah began neglecting her health, skipping meals, foregoing walks. Her once vibrant energy dulled, replaced by a fog of fatigue. Anxiety crept in. Who will care for me now? Financial worries loomed, unaddressed bills piling up like unspoken fears. This leads us to misstep two, neglecting the practical foundations, ignoring financial and daily realities. In the haze of grief, the mundane seems trivial. Bills arrive like unwelcome intruders, legal papers demand attention, but the heart screams, not now. Yet ignoring these is like sailing without checking the hull. Leaks form, and soon you're sinking. Take Michael, a retiree whose wife, Elena, battled cancer for years before passing. Their life was a tapestry of travels, Paris cafes, Italian vineyards, funded by careful savings. After her death, Michael froze. The will sat unread, accounts untouched. It's too painful, he reasoned, avoiding the bank statements that bore her signature. Months passed. Debts accrued interest, investments languished. He dipped into savings impulsively, buying gadgets to fill the void, only to regret the financial strain. Modern challenges amplify this. Dual-income households mean one salary vanishes, healthcare costs linger, and digital assets, passwords, online accounts, become locked mysteries. Widows and widowers often face widow's penalty in taxes, where single filing status hikes rates. Michael's regret deepened. I should have planned better. Psychological studies link unresolved practical matters to heightened anxiety, creating a vicious cycle where worry impedes emotional healing. But grief's lesson here is clarity. Loss sharpens focus on what truly matters. Practical tools abound. First, the anchor checklist. Within the first month, gather documents, will, insurance, deeds. Enlist a trusted advisor, perhaps a financial planner specializing in bereavement. Apps like Everplans digitize end-of-life organization. For daily health, the ritual reset, establish routines, morning walks, balanced meals, as anchors against chaos. Michael's turning point came when he joined a widow's financial workshop, transforming regret into resolve. The spiritual dimension whispers through this. Loss reminds us of impermanence, urging mindful stewardship of life's remnants. Elena's spirit lived on in their shared dreams. By securing the future, Michael honored that. Now we approach misstep 3, clinging to regret. The endless what if. Loop regret is grief's shadow, trailing relentlessly. What if I'd noticed the symptoms sooner? What if we'd said, I love you more? It masquerades as reflection, but devours progress. Laura's husband, David, died in a car accident, leaving her with 2 teenagers. Their marriage was imperfect, arguments over finances, unspoken resentments. In grief, Laura fixated, replaying fights, questioning choices. Depression set in, a heavy blanket smothering motivation. She withdrew from her kids, lost in what-ifs, neglecting their shared healing. Psychologically, regret activates the brain's default mode network, fostering rumination. Modern isolation, social media's highlight reels, intensifies it, making one's life seem deficient. Anxiety spikes, sleep evades, health declines. Yet regret's hidden wisdom. It illuminates growth. Grief teaches forgiveness of self, of the departed. Practical tool, Journaling the regret release. Write the what ifs, then counter with what was. Grateful moments. Therapy modalities like CBT reframe thoughts. Laura found solace in mindfulness apps, learning to anchor in the present. As we weave these missteps, notice the interplay. Isolation breeds neglect, which fuels regret, a triad hindering healing. But empowerment lies in awareness. Grief is transformation, the phoenix rising from ashes. Let us pause here in the midst of the storm to reflect on these first three missteps. They are not indictments, but signposts, guiding us away from pitfalls. In the quiet after the wave recedes, listen to your inner strength. You are not broken, you are evolving. But the journey continues. As the lighthouse keeper learns to kindle a new flame, so must we. In the next parts, we'll uncover the remaining missteps, delve into spiritual awakenings, and arm you with tools for renewal. Remember, the empty chair is not just a void. It's space for new stories, new love, new you. Navigating the inner wilderness, confronting the mind and spirit. Picture a vast, untamed wilderness stretching before you. A dense forest where shadows dance and paths twist unpredictably. This is the landscape of your inner world after loss, a place where grief's raw edges carve valleys of doubt and peaks of fleeting hope. The death of a spouse doesn't merely leave an empty chair, it reshapes the terrain of your soul. You stand at the edge, mapless, yet within this wilderness lies the potential for profound discovery. Here, in the second part of 6 missteps that hinder healing. After a spouse's passing, we explore the next 2 missteps, those internal traps that ensnare the heart and mind, and uncover the tools to navigate toward light. Grief is not a straight road, but a spiral, looping through sorrow, anger, and clarity in unpredictable rhythms. In part 1, we face the external missteps, isolating oneself, neglecting practical realities, and clinging to regret. Now we turn inward, where the psychological and spiritual battles rage most fiercely. The wilderness is daunting, but it's also where resilience is forged. Let's venture forth, guided by the stories of those who've walked this path and the lessons they have unearthed. Misstep 4, denying the emotional spectrum, suppressing grief's many faces. The first misstep in this inner wilderness is the urge to suppress emotion, to don a mask of stoicism as if grief were a singular note rather than a symphony. Society often praises strength as silence, urging us to move on or stay strong. But grief is not just tears, it's a kaleidoscope of feelings. Anger at fate, guilt over surviving, fleeting joy in a memory, dread of a future alone. Denying this spectrum risks bottling a storm. Consider James, a 62-year-old teacher whose wife, Maria, passed after a long illness. Their life was a quiet rhythm of book-lined evenings and garden mornings. When Maria died, James felt pressure to be the rock for his grown children. He buried his anger at her suffering, his fear of loneliness, even his moments of relief that her pain had ended. "I'm fine," he told everyone, his smile a brittle facade. But at night, insomnia gripped him, and his heart raced with unvoiced anxieties. Suppressing grief didn't erase it. It amplified it, manifesting as panic attacks and a creeping sense of disconnection. Modern life fuels this misstep. Social media showcases curated resilience, posts of overcoming loss with perfect sunsets, implying that raw emotion is weakness. Workplace cultures often grant mere days for bereavement, expecting normalcy before the heart is ready. Psychologically, this suppression disrupts the amygdala's processing of emotion, leading to heightened anxiety and even physical symptoms like chronic fatigue or chest tightness. Studies suggest that unexpressed grief can prolong depression, with 30% of bereaved spouses showing symptoms a year later if emotions are stifled. The lesson here is permission. Grief demands to be felt, not conquered. Every emotion, rage, sorrow, even unexpected laughter, is a thread in the tapestry of healing. Suppressing them frays the fabric. Embracing them weaves strength. Practical tool, the emotional map exercise. Each day, spend 10 minutes naming what you feel. Write it, speak it, or draw it. Apps like Dailyo allow mood tracking without judgment. If anger surfaces, punch a pillow. If joy flickers, savor it guilt-free. James found relief in a grief counselor who encouraged him to voice his guilt over feeling relief. a paradox that, once spoken, lost its power. Spiritually, this misstep teaches authenticity. Maria's love for James was rooted in their shared honesty. Honoring her meant being honest with himself. By allowing the full spectrum, James began to see grief not as betrayal, but as a testament to their bond. Misstep 5. Neglecting the body's wisdom, ignoring physical and mental health. The second misstep in this wilderness is neglecting the body, the vessel that carries us through grief's storm. Loss doesn't just wound the heart, it taxes the entire being. Sleep falters, appetites wane, and the simplest tasks, showering, eating, feel monumental. Yet ignoring these signals is like ignoring a compass in the wild. Take Aisha, a 45-year-old nurse whose husband, Malik, died unexpectedly in a workplace accident. Their marriage was a vibrant dance of late-night talks and community volunteer work. After Malik's death, Aisha threw herself into her job, skipping meals and sleep to avoid the quiet of home. Her body protested, headaches, weight loss, a persistent cough she ignored. Her mind, too, suffered. Depression settled like fog, clouding her once sharp focus. "I don't have time to fall apart," she told herself, but her body disagreed. Modern challenges exacerbate this. Single-parent households like Aisha's face relentless demands: bills, childcare, work. Technology's 24/7 connectivity blurs boundaries, leaving little room for rest. Physically, grief elevates cortisol, weakening immunity. Studies show bereaved spouses face a 20% higher risk of chronic illnesses like diabetes or heart disease if self-care lapses. Mentally, depression and anxiety can spiral, with 40% of widows and widowers reporting clinical symptoms within 6 months if health is neglected. The hidden lesson: the body is a sacred ally. Grief teaches us to listen to its whispers before they become screams. Practical tool: the Vitality Anchor. Create a daily ritual: 10 minutes of stretching, a nutrient-rich smoothie, or a walk in nature. Apps like Headspace offer guided meditations to calm the mind. Isha joined a yoga class for widows, where movement and breath reconnected her to her strength. Spiritually, caring for the body honors the life shared with Malik, a reminder that love endures through self-preservation. The psychological and spiritual crossroads. These missteps, denying emotions and neglecting the body, intertwine, feeding a cycle of depletion. Psychologically, suppressed emotions fuel physical decline. A neglected body deepens mental fog. But the wilderness also reveals clarity. Grief strips away illusions, forcing us to confront our mortality and purpose. Spiritually, it's a reckoning, an invitation to ask, who am I now? The answer lies not in erasing the past, but in integrating it into a new self. Practical tools extend beyond the individual. Support groups like those through hospices or online platforms such as Widowed Village offer spaces to share without shame. Journaling, as with the emotional map, can evolve into a legacy letter, writing to your spouse about lessons learned, dreams reshaped. These acts bridge the psychological and spiritual, grounding you in the present while honoring what was. As we pause in this wilderness, reflect on these truths. Your emotions are not your enemy, but your guides. Your body is not a burden, but a vessel of resilience. The missteps, suppressing feelings, neglecting health, are human, not failures. They are detours, not dead ends. In part 3, we'll confront the final misstep and step fully into healing's embrace, exploring how grief becomes a path to renewal. The wilderness is vast, but you are not lost. The stars are still there, waiting to guide you home. Rising from the ashes, embracing renewal and honoring love. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast canyon at sunrise. The chasm before you, carved by the relentless river of grief, stretches deep and wide, its depths holding the echoes of a life once shared. But as the sun crests, its light spills over the edges, illuminating paths unseen in the darkness. This is the final leg of our journey through 6 missteps that hinder healing after a spouse's passing. Here in part 3, we confront the last misstep, uncover the hidden gifts of grief, and embrace practical tools to forge a new path, not away from love, but toward a life that honors it. Grief is not the end. It is the crucible where resilience is born, where the heart learns to hold both loss and hope. In parts 1 and 2, we navigated the external pitfalls, isolating oneself, neglecting practicalities, clinging to regret. and the internal wilderness of suppressing emotions and ignoring the body's needs. Now, we stand at the crossroads of transformation, where the final misstep threatens to anchor us in the past, but the lessons of grief propel us forward. Let us step into this new dawn, guided by stories of renewal and the tools to rebuild. Misstep 6. Resisting the new self, clinging to the past identity. The final misstep is subtle yet profound, resisting the person you are becoming. After losing a spouse, the identity forged in partnership, partner, caregiver, confidant, feels like the truest version of you. To move forward can feel like betrayal, as if embracing change dishonors the love you shared. But clinging to the past self is like refusing to leave a crumbling house, even as the foundations shift. Consider Rachel, a 50-year-old artist whose husband Daniel died of a sudden stroke. Their life was a canvas of shared dreams, gallery openings, late-night sketches, plans for a studio in the mountains. After Daniel's passing, Rachel stopped painting. That was our life, she told herself, convinced that creating without him was infidelity to their bond. She wore his old flannel shirts, kept his side of the bed untouched, and avoided their favorite cafe. Yet the more she clung to the past, the more hollow she felt, as if her spirit were tethered to a ghost. Modern life amplifies this misstep. Social media memorializes the past. Endless photos, tagged memories, making it easy to live in a digital shrine. Cultural narratives romanticize eternal mourning, casting forward movement as disloyalty. Psychologically, this resistance stalls the brain's ability to integrate loss into a new narrative. Studies show that prolonged identity fixation increases risks of chronic grief, with 25% of bereaved spouses struggling to redefine themselves after 2 years. Anxiety festers. Who am I without them? Depression lingers, rooted in the fear that change erases love. But grief's greatest lesson shines here. You are not abandoning your spouse. You are carrying their love into a new chapter. The self you were with them, vibrant, loving, resilient, remains. But it evolves. Rachel's turning point came when she picked up a paintbrush, not to recreate their old art, but to paint her grief, a stormy abstract that became her first gallery piece in years. It wasn't betrayal, it was a tribute. Practical tool, the identity compass. Reflect on who you were, are, and wish to be. Write 3 lists. Who I was with them, e.g. partner, planner. Who I am now, e.g. survivor, seeker. And who I want to be, e.g. creator, adventurer. Apps like Notion can organize this reflection. Join a community, volunteer groups, art classes, or online forums like Widowed and Young, where new facets of yourself can emerge. Rachel joined a local art collective, finding purpose in mentoring young artists, a role Daniel would have championed. Spiritually, this misstep teaches surrender, not to loss, but to growth. Love is not confined to the past. It's a living force, urging you to become more. Daniel's love for Rachel wasn't in the sketches they shared. It was in her courage to create anew. The hidden gifts of grief. As we step beyond the final misstep, grief reveals its hidden gifts: clarity, wisdom, and inner strength. Clarity comes in the stripping away of trivialities. Loss sharpens focus on what matters: connection, purpose, authenticity. Wisdom emerges from wrestling with pain. You learn the impermanence of life, the value of small moments. Inner strength, perhaps the greatest gift, is forged in the choice to rise each day, to face the canyon and walk forward. Take Carlos, a 55-year-old mechanic whose wife, Sophia, passed after a long battle with Alzheimer's. Their life was filled with salsa dancing and family barbecues. After her death, Carlos felt adrift, but grief clarified his priorities: his children, his health, his community. He started a grief support group at his church, sharing wisdom from his journey. His strength inspired others, a ripple effect of healing. Modern challenges test these gifts. Financial pressures, like the widow's penalty tax burden, demand clarity in budgeting. Social isolation, worsened by remote work or urban anonymity, requires wisdom to seek connection. Mental health struggles. 40% of bereaved spouses face anxiety or depression. Call for strength to prioritize self-care. Practical tools for renewal. Healing is not passive. It's an active choice built on practical steps. Here are tools to anchor you. The renewal ritual. Create daily micro goals. Plant a flower, try a new recipe, call a friend. These small acts, tracked in apps like Todoist, build momentum. Carlos cooks Sophia's favorite empanadas, finding joy in sharing them with his kids. The gratitude anchor. Each evening, write 3 things you're grateful for, however small: a warm coffee, a kind word, a memory. Apps like Gratitude Journal foster this habit. This counters depression's pull, grounding you in the present. The Legacy Project. Honor your spouse through action, a charity in their name, a hobby they loved, or a letter to future generations. Rachel's paintings became a scholarship fund for young artists, a living testament to Daniel's dreams. The Community Bridge. Engage with others, whether through support groups, religious communities, or volunteering. Platforms like Meetup connect you to local events. Carlos's church group became his lifeline, reminding him he wasn't alone. The call to move forward. As we stand at this canyon's edge, let us embrace grief's paradox. It breaks you open to make you whole. The empty chair, the silent lighthouse, the shadowed wilderness, all are part of you, but they are not the end. You are the dawn, the new path, the phoenix rising. To heal is not to forget. It is to carry love forward, to live boldly in its name. This journey through 6 missteps that hinder healing. After a spouse's passing has shown us the pitfalls: isolation, neglect, regret, suppression, bodily disregard, and resistance to change, and the tools to transcend them. Grief is your teacher, your crucible, your guide. Step forward, not away from love, but toward a life that honors it, radiant with the resilience you forged.